Hi guys and gals and kittens, and welcome to the I Need a Magic Show. So in this video, I'm going to show you how to create your own actions. So far we've gone through workflows, we've gone through SQL Studio, and we have gone through the CRUD generator, the backend generator or endpoint generator. So here you have HyperID, and you remember from our previous videos, we went through the toolbox and how to create a workflow. Then we went into SQL Studio and how to visually design your database, etc., etc. And then finally we wrapped up with the auto endpoint generator. Now, in this video, I'm going to be using a database, and I have already installed it. It's called Chinook. It's actually a plugin. So you go to manage/plugins. You can actually download Chinook here. So if you want to follow this YouTube video hands-on, then just find, I cannot install it again because I've already installed it, but you will find something that says SQLite Chinook DB here, right? Just click install on that guy. It takes like 2 minutes for it to actually install because it needs to like insert like 10,000 records or something. So that's why I've skipped ahead and already done it before I started this YouTube video. But once you're done, you will actually see in SQL Studio that you have Chinook database. At this point, you can go into SQL View, you can click snippets, and you will see that it also installs a bunch of SQL snippets that you can execute. Here you see, for instance, it's doing a count by artist name, how many records each artist have. And now if I want to create an SQL endpoint, because that is actually what I'm going to do. I'm going to be creating an action based upon this SQL. So I'm going to copy the SQL. And at this point, I can actually already go back into the endpoint generator. I can click the SQL endpoint generator, and I can choose my Chinook database, and I can, give my endpoint a name, artists, columns, and I can apply a verb or a method. I can just like paste in here and generate. And if I now go to manage and endpoints and I search for artists, then you will see I have a new HTTP endpoint that I can actually invoke that returns statistics for me, or basically aggregate count of like, what artists have released the most records. So here you can see Iron Maiden has released 21 records, Led Zeppelin 14, according to this database, of course, for the record, not in total. These numbers are obviously not complete. However, what I want to do now is, instead of just creating a dummy endpoint like I did now, and for the record, you can expand modules and then you can expand Chinook, you will see the HTTP endpoint here. This is the Hyperlambda that's actually executing as I'm invoking my endpoint. What I want to do now is that I want to create my own custom action. Now, in order to do that, I need to, I can just close this file, I guess. I need to expand the etc. folder. Then I need to expand the workflows folder. If you don't have this folder, you need to create it for the record. Then you expand the actions folder, and then you just create a new file. And it needs to be a Hyperlambda file. It can be named anything. It should not have a dot in its name. If I now call my, for instance, Chinook album count.hl, that becomes the name of my Hyperlambda workflow action, right? So Chinook album-count, great. And now I can create an action here. I can just close this guy, and then I can do data.connect, and then I can do Chinook data.select, and then alpha, 2 double quotes, and just paste in my SQL here. And then I can Alt-S or Option-S on Mac to save this file. Now, a workflow action has a specific structure, right? And actually, probably a better way to create your action would be to, instead of doing it the way I did now, you actually select your actions folder and you click plus here, and then you choose, now the templates are gone. Never mind. Chinook, don't do that last thing I did. Albums count.hl. Instead of doing what I did just now, which was wrong, just save this file and then click the show system files here. Now, the red folders here, it's very, very important that you do not edit any code inside of them. First of all, because if you do and you actually apply an error, the system might stop working. However, we're going to go into MISC, workflows, actions, and just find any action here, like the file.-load HL, because we just want to look at the structure, right? That's all we want to do. And then we want to copy the top parts here, down up until icon, insert drive file, copy it, and just move that code into the top of our custom action file. That's called chinook-albums.count. Then we can apply some like description, returns artists and count of records per artist sorted by artists having the most albums. Option S, Alt S on window. And then we can do, for instance, a filtering parameter here now. So if we now write filter here, its type is string, mandatory is true. Then we can change the icon if we want to. We can have the home icon, for instance. And now we want to use our action, right? The way you would use your action here now is basically by adding a where clause to your, so if you look at the select statement in isolation here now, right, then this is how it looks like. Select ar.name, count as count from album AL, comma artists AR, where artist ID equals artist ID from both tables. Group by, and now we want to do a where, right? Where AL dot name like alpha filter, right? This becomes our syntax. Why? Because we are now going to pass in the filter argument as a criteria to our SQL using SQL parameters, so there's no possibility of doing actual SQL injections. And then we are going to do carriage return at the end here, click tab once and write at filter colon x colon at dot arguments slash asterisk slash filter. Notice how this is the same and this is the same. In later YouTube videos I'm going to go through lambda expressions, but this is basically just a lambda expression. So this thing here now is basically referencing the input argument that this particular action happens to be expecting. Now at the bottom here, after our data.select bugger, we can write tab, 3 spaces, return colon x colon minus slash asterisk. Save the file and we're done. We have now created our own custom action. Now our custom action is called chinook-albums.count. If we go into our toolbox, you won't see this action now because we actually have to refresh. So if I refresh the browser, and if I now create inside of my Chinook folder, I create foo.hl, then because I refreshed here now, Visual Studio, you will see Chinook albums count. Now we can create Option Q or Alt Q on Windows. We can write a description, returns album counts per artist, parameters, filter, string. So now we have a Hyperlambda file taking one argument whose name is filter. Now we can use Chinook albums count, we can pass in the filter. See, it's got the same name, so it's automatically populating the argument, input argument to our action. Then we can click OK, and then we can go up here and filter on return dash, at which point we're returning the result of the last action, Option S on a Mac, or Alt S on Windows, function F5 on Mac, or F5 on Windows, and we write filter A asterisk. And ta-da, there you see. So we have a syntax error. Yeah, buddy. Let's go in and check what we did wrong. Workflows, actions, Chinook albums count, select name as count from album. Yeah, we have two where statements here. You see, we have where there and we have where there. So just change this guy to an and. Option S, switch back to your foo.hl file, function F5, %, and ta-da, there we go. We're now al.name, ar.name. This isn't my day, is it? I'm going to be linking in a link to an article where I published this code in the description of the YouTube video. So save, let's save the file. Let's now go back to our foo.hl file, function f5, %, ta-da, there we go, AC/DC, Aerosmith, all that beautiful stuff, but nothing starting out with the character B. If I now invoke it with, I don't know if there are any artists whose name starts with a B, but let's see. B, now you will see Berliner Philharmoniker, Black Sabbath, Black Label Society, Battlestar, etc., etc. So now it's returning only album count for artists that starts out, that have a name starting out with the character B. So now we have created a Hyperlambda file. Now we can turn this Hyperlambda file into, just de-expand this bugger, de-expand these guys, expand modules, and go to foo.hl. If you now rename this bugger to .get, we have an HTTP endpoint, accepting that is being executed upon get invocations to the URL of foo. So now if you save the file and we click here, HTTP, ta-da, we've got the JSON Open API specification for our API endpoint, both of them actually. So let's just delete this guy such that we only have the foo, and then let's rename this guy to album count get. Now if we invoke it again, HTTP get album count, you will see here now we have album count as the URL to our endpoint. Now of course we can copy the JSON, we can go to ChatGPT/GPT's editor, and we can create our own GPT and all that beautiful stuff that actually consumes our API endpoint. So let me just rapidly do that. Use my action if I ask you for album count. And then my action is create new action, paste in the JSON, going back, and then let's create a conversation starter. How many, and make sure you ask me for a filter parameter unless I provide one. How many artists are, how many albums have artists released? Let's see, ask me, use my action if I ask you for album count for artists, and make sure you ask me for filter parameter unless I provide one. Okay, save, only me. We need to give it a name. Chinook demo. Save, only me, confirm, and then of course I have a conversation starter which is going to ask me for filter parameter because I don't supply one, right? So I'm going to provide you with the number of albums released by artists. I need a specific filter parameter. Could you please provide, specify a particular artist, genre, or other criteria you're interested in? For example, you could ask for the number of albums by specific artists like the Beatles, or you might want to know the album count for a specific genre like rock. Let me know your specific interests. AC%. Of course, the point being, it's going to return only AC/DC. Starting action, confirm, and now we're going to know how many albums AC/DC has released according to the Chinook database on my cloudlet, and accept an Academy of St. Martin, and yeah, etc. And there you can see AC/DC has 2 albums, Accept has 2 albums, 1 album for the Academy guys, and there's a shitload of Academy guys here, I guess, because it's probably like a symphonical orchestra down in like Berlin or something, who's got like 14 different branches. However, the point being, I now have my own custom action that I can use in my own custom workflows, allowing me to work with my own domain-specific problem. You might argue I've turned the workflow software development automation orchestration platform into a DSL, or domain-specific language, if you wish. Why? Because it's actually tied to my database, it's tied to my particular domain, and I will find the action Chinook here in my Chinook-albums-count action toolbox. Remember, after you've created your action, you do need to currently, in its current state, refresh the browser to actually gain access to using the action declaratively, using Magic's metaprogramming constructs and declarative programming constructs. Anyways, that was it for today's video. Thank you for watching. Have a nice day.